The greatest golfer alive just said something so dangerous, so carefully calculated that the people running the sport should genuinely be scared. Here's what nobody is telling you right now. 2 weeks out from Shinnecock Hills, the U.S. Open, the one major Scottie Scheffler has never won, the one trophy sitting between him and golf immortality, between him and a list of 6 names: Sarazen, Hogan, Player, Nicklaus, Tiger, McIlroy, 6 men in the entire history of the sport who completed the career Grand Slam, and Scheffler is standing right at the door. But something happened in the last few weeks that almost nobody picked up on. Scheffler spoke, quietly, precisely, the way he always does. And what he said, buried under all the noise, all the tour drama, all the rule change chaos, is the most loaded, most dangerous statement any world number one has made before a major in years. I'm going to break down every single word, because when you understand what he actually means and why he's saying it right now, it completely reframes what's about to happen at Shinnecock. And I'll tell you this right now. By the end of this video, you're going to see this U.S. Open completely differently. Not as a golf tournament, as a test, a trap, and possibly the most dramatic sporting moment of 2026. If you're new here, this channel is Analysis PGA. We don't do takes. We do breakdowns. Deep, full-picture analysis that you won't find anywhere else. Hit subscribe right now, because as Shinnecock gets closer, every video is going to matter more than the last. You don't want to miss what's coming. Now, let's start where this story actually starts, with everything that's on fire in professional golf right now. The chaos nobody saw come and understand why Scheffler's words carry the weight they do. You have to understand the world he's speaking into, because this isn't one crisis. It's 4, all happening simultaneously. Crisis 1. 25 players lost their cards overnight. Last season, they had guaranteed PGA Tour status. Fully exempt. This year, gone. The Tour quietly cut the exempt field from 125 players down to 100. 25 careers. Altered. Just like that. The official reason given? Pace of play. Lucas Glover called that explanation insulting. Matt Fitzpatrick called it pathetic. Said it's the same recycled excuse every single year, while nothing actually changes on the course. These are not fringe players throwing tantrums. These are seasoned professionals watching the ground shift under their feet with no warning and no real answer. That's the internal fire. Crisis 2, the ball rollback. Starting 2028, every professional, every single one, plays a ball that travels meaningfully shorter. We're talking 12 to 20 yards, depending on who's doing the measuring. This is not a tweak. This is a restructuring of professional golf at its physical core. Justin Thomas went on a 3-minute rant, on camera, barely contained. Bryson DeChambeau called it, and I'm quoting directly, the most atrocious thing you could do to the sport. Rory McIlroy came out publicly in support of it. Split, right down the middle. The biggest names in this game, openly disagreeing in front of cameras about what the future of their sport even looks like. And here's the kicker. The USGA CEO responded to all the criticism with one sentence that went completely viral for all the wrong reasons. He said, "Nobody is going to die." That's it. That was the response to the world's best players raising serious concerns about competitive fairness. Nobody is going to die. I want you to hold that quote. We're coming back to it, because it becomes very important when we get to what Scheffler said. Crisis 3. The Tour Championship is gone. After 6 years, the format is scrapped. Track 1 and Track 2, the restructured schedule, quietly threatening which tournaments even survive into the next decade. Hawaii is off the schedule for the first time in 56 years. 56 years. Every pillar of professional golf, exempt status, equipment standards, flagship events, scheduling architecture, all being moved at the same time, in the same calendar year. And in the middle of all that noise, the world number one finally spoke. Who Scheffler actually is. Before we get to what he said, we need to establish why it matters more than anyone else's opinion in that locker room. B-roll of Scheffler's swing, trophy lifts, fist pumps, understated ones. Scottie Scheffler does not chase headlines. He doesn't perform for cameras. He doesn't throw sound bites into the Twitter machine and watch them ignite. Every single word he says in public is chosen, measured, deliberate, which is exactly why when he does speak, it lands. 2 Masters titles, a 5-stroke demolition at the 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, the Claret Jug at Royal Portrush by 4 shots, world number 1 for what feels like an unbroken stretch of dominance. He is the most automatic winner this sport has seen since Tiger Woods in his prime. When a player that dominant tells you a rule is bad for the game, that is not a complaint from someone struggling to keep up. That is not sour grapes. That is a verdict from the best player alive. And his core issue, the thing underneath everything he says, is not about distance. It's not about fairways or ball speeds or yardage numbers. It's about something much more fundamental. Scheffler cannot accept any situation where skill gets removed from the equation and replaced by luck. That's the lens. Keep that in your mind for everything that comes next. Quail Hollow and the mud build this principle, skill over luck, was on full display at the 2025 PGA Championship. And what happened there is the clearest window we have into how Scheffler's mind works. Quail Hollow, soaked, rain heavy, soft. Officials made the call, no lift clean in place. You play it as it lies. Scheffler hits a perfect drive, pure, right down the middle of the fairway. The ball hits wet turf and picks up mud. And when a ball is caked with mud on one side, physics takes over in the worst way. The approach flies sideways. Double bogey on 16. A tournament, a skills competition, reduced in that moment to a lottery. Pure randomness, deciding the outcome for the best player in the world. He talked about it afterward. Calm, precise, no drama, no theatrics. Just, this is what happened. This is why it's a problem. And that's actually what makes it cut so deep. When Bryson goes nuclear on something, it gets dismissed as Bryson being Bryson. When Scheffler says something quietly and clearly, with no performance behind it, it sits with you. The USGA's response to his legitimate concerns about the ball rollback, nobody is going to die. Remember that line? That's the relationship we're working with here. A player raises a real concern about competitive fairness. The governing body jokes it off. Now ask yourself, how does a man like Scheffler respond to that? He doesn't yell. He doesn't go on podcasts and rant for 45 minutes. He does something far more calculated. And that's what we're going to get to. But first, let me show you something that happened at Erin Hills that made everything worse. And stay with me here, because what happened at Erin Hills connects directly to Shinnecock and directly to what Scheffler's words actually mean. This is where the whole story locks together. Erin Hills and the question nobody wants to answer. 2026 PGA Championship. Erin Hills. Erin Rye walks away with the trophy, and Scheffler, along with several other top players, starts asking a question out loud that the governing bodies absolutely do not want asked. Did the setup actually reward the best golf? Not was it hard. Not was the scoring low. Not did the weather cooperate. Did the best golf win? Because there is a version of difficult that is brilliant. Augusta on Sunday. Carnoustie in the wind. The old course at its most savage, where the margins are razor thin, where every club selection is a chess move, where the winner earns it in every sense of the word. And then there's a version of difficult that is just chaos, where the greens are so firm that a perfect shot spins off into a bunker, where pins are placed in positions that punish mathematically correct approaches, where the leaderboard at the end doesn't reflect the best striking or the sharpest mind. It reflects whoever got the most favorable bounces. Scheffler is asking which version Erin Hills was. Out loud, as the world number one. When the world number one raises that question about a major setup, the governing bodies should be listening. They weren't. Now we get to June 2nd. Shinnecock Hills. And the moment this entire story pivots. Scheffler walks Shinnecock. June 2nd. Scottie Scheffler sets foot on Shinnecock Hills for the first time in his life. Think about that. The most important golf course in the world right now, for the most important 2 weeks of his career, and he had never walked it before that morning. He flew in, walked the property, then flew straight to Muirfield Village for the memorial. When the media asked him what he thought, this is where it gets fascinating. His first word was surprised. Surprised at the width of the fairways. And if you know anything about Shinnecock's history, You know exactly why that's significant. This is a course defined by narrow, punishing corridors. A course that made the world's best ball strikers feel like amateurs in 2018. Brooks Koepka won that year at 1 over par. The third round scoring average was above 75. Players publicly called it broken, out of control, and now Scheffler walks it and says, surprised by the fairways. The USGA confirmed it. Fairways averaging 48 yards wide, the widest setup in 50, possibly 75 years. Their stated philosophy has shifted. They're moving away from make the winning score even par and toward what they're calling the fairest test of golf. Wide corridors off the tee, but 5-inch rough, sitting right at the edge of those corridors, and green complexes. And this is the part Scheffler zeroes in on, so severe, so intricate, so punishing, that the USGA can manufacture any scoring environment they want just by moving the pins. Here's what he said, verbatim, remember this. The greens are so extraordinary that the USGA can put pins wherever they want and make scores as high as they could possibly want them to be. He said the rough is a real penalty for the width, that once you start missing fairways at Shinnecock, you have no chance. He said the green complexes are extremely difficult, and that's where the greatest challenge comes from. Rory called the fairways very generous compared to 2018 and said missing them should cost you. Careful qualified nod. Measured approval. But Scheffler's words are different because of what's sitting underneath them. The USGA can put pins wherever they want and make scores as high as they could possibly want. Is that admiration or is it a warning? Is it a man saying this course is a brilliant test? Or is it a man saying to people I don't fully trust are holding all the cards and I'm walking into their arena? The Grand Slam and the birthday. Now we zoom out and we look at what is actually at stake on June 18th. 2 Masters, the Claret Jug, the PGA Championship. Scottie Scheffler has done things that most careers don't come close to touching. But the U.S. Open, 8 starts, 0 wins. Best finish, runner-up 2022. Worst moment, Pinehurst 2024, tied 43rd. He described that week as, and these are his words, a mental torture chamber for a player this dominant. The U.S. Open has been his one blind spot, his one locked door, and it's the only door left between him and the career Grand Slam. The only thing separating him from joining 6 men, 6, in the entire history of professional golf, who won all 4 majors. Sarazen, Hogan, Player, Nicklaus, Tiger, McIlroy. The 7th slot has been open since Rory completed it. Scheffler is the only man alive good enough to take it. And here's the detail that makes this almost cinematic. The final round of the 2026 U.S. Open falls on June 21st. Scottie Scheffler's 30th birthday, completing the career Grand Slam, joining the Immortals on the day he turns 30, not the day before, not the week after, the exact date. Nobody at the USGA could have scripted that if they tried. So now think about everything we've talked about. A player who has publicly and repeatedly warned that randomness, not difficulty, not precision, not intelligence, but pure randomness is being allowed to corrupt the results of professional golf. A player who walked away from Shinnecock and said the governing body can make scores whatever they want them to be. A player who has watched the same governing body dismiss legitimate concerns with jokes about nobody dying. That player is now walking into that governing body's arena, chasing history on his birthday. Here's what Shinnecock is actually going to do to Scottie Scheffler. Everything that makes him the favorite is real. The form is unimpeachable. Peak ball striking, relentless fairway accuracy, the mental resilience of someone who won a major while being arrested in the same morning and still posted a 62 in the afternoon. He is built for 4 grinding days on a punishing test. And a Shinnecock that punishes wild play and rewards precision should, in theory, be the perfect stage for him. That's also the trap, because the USGA can move those pins. They can firm those greens to glass. One afternoon, one bad condition window, one Sunday pin placement that turns a correct approach into a brutal scramble, and even the best ball striker in the world is chasing a number he can't catch. The thing Scheffler fears most about modern golf, randomness overwhelming ability, luck overriding skill, is now the single biggest weapon aimed at his greatest career ambition, being administered by the people he has already publicly expressed concern about. He is walking onto the most significant stage of his life, carrying history on his back. And the people controlling the setup are the exact people he's been warning us about for months. Drop a comment right now. Do you think the USGA sets Shinnecock up fairly? Or do you think we're going to see chaos like 2018 again? I read every single one. And the answer to that question matters more than most people realize, because it determines whether what happens on June 21st is a triumph of skill or a tragedy of luck. Here's the bottom line. Scheffler hasn't ranted. He hasn't performed outrage for cameras. He hasn't gone on 3-hour podcasts and demanded the USGA resign. He has done something far more precise and far more dangerous. He has laid out clearly and calmly exactly what he believes golf should be, and exactly where the people running it are falling short. And now he is going to prove his point, or have it proven against him, on the most loaded stage the sport has produced in a generation. Win at Shinnecock, and he silences everything. The Grand Slam is complete. He joins the Immortals. The conversation about skill versus luck gets permanently attached to his name as proof that precision wins. Lose, especially if he loses in the way he's been warning about, to a course setup that overwhelmed execution with randomness. And every word he said becomes painfully, prophetically correct. The governing bodies will have proven his case in the cruelest way possible. Either outcome is historic. Either outcome is a story. And Scheffler, measured, precise, deliberate, has made sure that everyone who's paying attention understands exactly what's at stake before the first tee shot. That is not an accident. That is a man who thinks several moves ahead, on and off the course. June 18th, Shinnecock Hills, the U.S. Open, the birthday, the Grand Slam, the trap, the setup, the man who might be the best golfer to ever pick up a club, standing at the edge of history, staring down the very people he's been quietly, carefully challenging all year. I'm going to be covering every single round, every setup detail, every pin sheet, every leaderboard shift, as it happens. But here's what I'll leave you with, and I want you to sit with this until we get back. What if Scheffler wins ugly? What if the courses get chaotic, the luck does swing wildly, and he finds a way to grind through anyway? Does that prove his point about skill? Or does it prove the systems? That question might be the most interesting thing about this entire U.S. Open, and I'll have the full answer for you, round by round, starting June 18th. Subscribe to Analysis PGA right now. Turn on notifications, because this story is not done. It's just getting started, and I'll see you at Shinnecock